I'm Tony Abadi. I'm the founder of Echo360. It's a 10-year-old software company that sells to colleges globally. So we're really basically a learning platform, and we're really excited about this basic feature because it's really going to change the paradigm for not only students but teachers, and we really believe it's going to improve outcomes in higher ed, which is pretty important to us. What the solution does today, before we get to the specifics on how Transcribe is going to supercharge this, is it's effectively a learning platform students use before, during, and after class. So it allows you to do a bunch of things. One, you can review the material projected to you before class in video format, audio format, or PDF. It also provides you a ton of tools that you can use with that content before class, during class, and after class. For example, you can take notes in our system, and I'll talk about why that's important in a second. You can also ask questions of your peers. You can ask questions of the TA. You can ask questions of the teacher on the fly with the system, right? You don't have to raise your hand. You don't have to scramble to the podium after class. You don't have to go to teacher's hours. When you have the question at the moment in time, you can type the question and typically get an answer back much faster this way. The third thing it allows teachers to do is to actually poll or quiz students. So there's an interactive component to this too, which drives greater student engagement. This is just an example of a class. I'll use this particular class throughout the presentation. It's actually a professor at the University of Michigan who works with us. He is an extreme weather guy. He actually chases tornadoes, if you can believe it. So he has a pretty interesting, if not dangerous, job. And he uses this to teach his class and has been using it for quite some time. What you see effectively in the pane here is the Q&A window when a student wants to ask a question about some complex subject just presented, right? So you can use this, again, like I said, before class. You can use it in class, and you can, of course, use it after class. This also renders on your mobile device, so you don't have to do this with a PC. So that's a quick overview of what Echo does. Why is it important? Even before we add transcription, we have proven time and time again that when students use the solution, they get better grades. Now, this is a correlation. It's not causation. You can never truly prove causation. But this is actually a fairly sophisticated medical school example across 2 different courses where they tested the level of effort that the students were exercising the tool and or the instructor was using the polling application of the tool. And you can see the more it's used, your grades go up demonstrably. So kids typically who fail or withdraw stay in the class. Kids who get Ds typically get Cs or C pluses and all the way up. So it's a pretty powerful tool as it exists today. So let's talk a little bit about how Transcribe is going to help. As mentioned previously, we are recording about 1 million hours of fresh learning content a year across our 250 customers in 30 countries. We're supporting about 2 million students now. So a lot of that video is just basically going into a library, and students are having to try and find things within a lecture. It turns out lectures are now running anywhere from as short as 45 minutes to upwards of 3 hours. So you get a 3-hour lecture and a video, and yes, in our system you can play it back at twice the speed. It's very hard to find what you need within the video, right? Unless you've been very good at diligently, while you're listening to the lecture live, bookmarking key areas and taking key notes. So what we're effectively going to do, and we're going to do this for free to a certain level for most schools, and then they can buy extra, is we're going to take that 1 million hours of content and transcribe it so that you literally have a full-blown transcript of what was spoken in the class after class, and we're going to present it to you in a window like the question window or the notes window. So why is this very helpful to the student? It's actually a bunch of things. First, we are taking the most advanced transcription engine that we have found, and we have tested a bunch in the market. And we believe even with the complexity of the language being used in STEM classes or in medical school where they have their own lingo and they have their own acronyms, we typically get between 88 and 94% accuracy before we can seed the engine with keywords, right? So we believe that that accuracy is going to go up. The second is we're fully integrating the suite into the other tools that already existed. So imagine a student in class, or more importantly after class in this case, toggling between their notes pane, the transcription pane, and the Q&A pane, right? Well, the first thing the student typically does, and we've done this with a few, is they don't take as many notes and they spend more time actually trying to engage in the content and learn. They're not trying to be the court stenographer in the classroom and take down everything the professor said. Why? Because they know it's going to be there for them by us, right? So now they can actually try and learn the material as opposed to write really fast, so they don't focus on that. The second thing it does is it allows them to find things. So over the course of several courses that you take in a semester, you could have upwards of 300 or 400 videos that you're responsible for trying to internalize before a final exam, if you're taking 4 courses a semester, which is typical in North America. This allows you to use keyword search to find key concepts that you want to basically review before the exam across all the files in your library, and then ultimately within a file. So again, if you have a 3-hour lecture and you're trying to find Bernoulli's principle in it, this thing is going to tell you specifically in what minute and second across that 3-hour video that phrase is used. And then when you slave to it, what's interesting is you go to that, let's assume it's at 45 minutes in an hour and a half or 2-hour-long lecture, up pops the video, the audio, the transcript, and your notes in any question and answer session that took place amongst all the students in the class right there at your fingertips. Right? So you don't have to go searching through your handwritten notes. You don't have to go through a different Q&A threads in some other system. Everything's sitting there for you to internalize. And that's the reason why you see students' outcomes improving over time. Right? So the other thing I would like to highlight is one of the key elements in higher ed is the notion that you need to have closed captioning for the hearing impaired. This is an ADA requirement. It's a legal requirement. The challenge here is it has to be 99% accurate or it does not qualify. And we are actually putting the transcription pane in the transcription window to the right, not the closed captioning window at the bottom here, because of that accuracy issue. It's against the law for us to put the transcript in that lower box until it's 99% accurate. Before you had this solution, schools would have to literally pay a human translator upwards of $60 an hour to do the transcription. So do the math. We're doing 1 million hours a year times 60 is $60 million if you were going to do a closed captioning for every audio and video we capture. It's untenable. Schools will not do this. So typically our schools, before this solution was available, they would find the classes where they had a specific student that had the accommodation requirement. They raised their hand and said, I am hearing impaired, please do this for me. And we typically see, depending upon the school, less than 5% of all of the video and audio transcribed the old-fashioned way because it is so expensive, right? But by providing this tool at, like I said, upwards of 90% accurate, ideally it would rise a bit with machine learning and seeding it with keywords, then what you can do is have work study students, much in the example we saw before, moving it from the 93, 94% accurate to the 99% accurate. Once it achieves that threshold, it can be put in the closed captioning window here, and that's something we do automatically. We've been doing that for years. So this is going to be a huge, huge tool for all schools to effectively close caption everything once they've cracked the accuracy code. Because we're not doing this at $60 an hour, I can promise you. Right? So, I went the wrong way, excuse me. So again, just to summarize, the key thing here in all of this is we're driving student engagement. And I love this quote, you know, tell me and I forget, teach me and I learn, involve me, and teach me and I remember, and involve me and I learn. What we see students doing with this platform, to include with the transcription piece, is they use the solution time and time again. It becomes almost a crutch for them so that they can spend more time learning in class and then obviously using the tool to effectively really master key concepts after class. And so with the partnership with Amazon and with the transcription capability, we're highly confident that this is really even going to drive this even further. And with that, I think they asked me to encourage you all to please fill out the survey at the end of the session. Any questions? Thanks.